Welcome back to the Delaware Way. This is Larry Menti. We just talked to Wilmington Fire Chief Anthony Good about staffing and about a blog post that he wrote that was controversial. Now would like to bring in the former mayor of Wilmington, the only three-term mayor of Wilmington, James Baker, who knows a little bit about how council and the city works. Right. What do you think of this whole mess?
Well, I would have had the law department make an opinion that it's overstepping the bounds of council, and they're making an administrative decision. The mayor is supposed to determine staffing and present that budget to council. Council can look at the budget, they can cut, they can ask for cuts, they can ask for changes and all of that, but that's during the budgetary process. But after the budget is passed, the mayor has to work with that budget. And if the council keeps coming in and saying, well, you need to change this, you need to change that. Oh, we don't like this.
So they passed the budget, then they came back and said,
to me, it's an administrative function. It's not a legislative function. Not until they could ask the mayor through a resolution or a letter coming from council saying, we got this study, this is what the study says, we think you ought to take action on it. Now, if the mayor wants to, he can do so. If he doesn't, he might say, look, I don't want to do this because I want to really look at this more deeply than what the report has said. And we may need a new class. That may be the issue that you're really looking at.
Well, I think they're bringing in a new class.
See?
So yeah, they already have it. They already have it advertised. They are bringing in a new class.
But see, that's why you don't want that kind of interference in making decisions on something after you have passed a budget. Then you change the budget again because you don't like something.
Well, the story's not over yet because the mayor vetoed it, and
council will try to override it.
Will they override it?
I don't know. I don't know how many votes they have, but it takes nine votes to override the.
Well, it passed with 8.
Well, if it's only 8, they're not going to be able to make it unless they convince another person to come on board.
Should there have been a compromise?
I think there
Are there cuts to make to the fire department?
At this point, by not reading that study and not really looking at, I always heard from the fire department, not only the administrators but the union also, was that they didn't have enough personnel and they were fearful of having a dual crisis in the city where 2 major fires start in the city of Wilmington. They couldn't handle both of them. So the volunteers have to come in and help us, which they did with the fire at 9th and Market of that office building. It was such a huge fire. They came to help, plus they got to stand by because of the pulling in of everybody. So that was their major argument, that we don't have enough people to handle major crises if it does take place.
But you have enough people in the surrounding area?
For basic fires, like a home fire, you could handle that easily.
Well, this always comes to a bigger question then. If not the fire department, where? If you are going to cut, where?
Well, the problem is, the city, when I first came on city council, city government had about 2,500 employees. Today you have about 1,000. How far do you keep cutting? You're going to lose services sooner or later. And the quality of those services will decline. What needs to happen in this state is from the state governor all the way down, all the municipalities need to participate in a discussion of governance, because the city of Wilmington can't tax its way out of the problems structurally, financially that they have. If they do, they're going to chase people out of the city if you have to keep raising that tax on property. What do we do? The wage tax now has become the major funder for the city government, 39% of the budget. Only 20-some% is from property taxes. But you can't raise the wage tax because the General Assembly says no. So all you can do is put fees and property tax. And so about 34, I think it's maybe 43, maybe turning the figures around, but percent of the properties in Wilmington are non-taxable.
Wow.
So that means you're taxing a smaller and smaller population to fund all of the services. Something has to happen to change how you basically fund your services.
Isn't part of the problem that Delaware itself and Wilmington, but Delaware especially, is lagging behind the rest of the country in getting its way out of this recession. I think it's 49th.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult. What we're not looking at, we keep trying to bring back stuff, and it's not going to happen. You've got to create. There ought to be an aggressive, like the proposals out at the old auto plant for research and development that the University of Delaware is trying to do. We need to look at new things and stop trying to think. Look at the agriculture. Look how much it's shrunk. Right. Why not look at that? The other is, we're right on the daggone Delaware River. We don't use it. We don't use the coast. We don't think of deep water port, for example, which we would really need to compete with the rest of the ports, is to make a deep water system so that we can take.
Would there be some dredging have to be done for that? You have to bring in the Army Corps of Engineers, right?
Either dredging, or we have to create it that we go out far enough that we can build a facility. You know, like they do, the oil companies build those platforms all the time. You might have to do something like that's expensive. Looking at all the different elements of, I think agriculture, urban agriculture is going to be a big deal in the future. Water is going to be tremendously important in the future.
Yes.
It's going to be wars over water sooner or later. But if we look at that, medical assistance, our education system's in total disarray, and we need to fix it.
Let me ask you, we're getting wrapped up, but I do want to ask you, how did you feel about the casino bailout?
Oh, I don't have it. I gamble all the time. I don't have it.
That's a great answer.
Only thing I want is they to gamble, to help me gamble out, so I can make a little bit of coins out.
Thanks. Always a pleasure. Mayor, thank you. Mayor James Baker. We'll be right back with some final thoughts.